think George indicated he's probably not gonna be able to join us unless we have a quorum problem. I think so. I think this is I think we have a quorum. So since Adam has a tight deadline to go to Board of Ed tonight, we'll get going at 5:31 PM. Call to order. Number two, public comment. Any public comment?
We have Katie Stein as an attendee.
Does she have her hand raised or does she want to?
No, she does not.
Okay. We'll give her another shot later in the meeting. Number three, approval of prior minutes, November 18th, 2024. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those?
Certainly, I will.
Okay, great. We have a second? Second, thanks, Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Old business, hearing none. Moving on to new business. We're shy one architect. Let's see.
If Rob wants to kick off, I'm sure Justin would have said similar things to what I would say, so I can
Yeah.
cover for them tonight on this special meeting scheduling event.
Yeah, we may be a conflict with his other project meeting or something like that, or some planning and zoning meeting in his hometown. So Robert, if you would take us away.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. So little old school today, but wanted to show a couple pictures. I think this will kind of highlight a couple of the main areas of progress. So I figured this was probably the easiest way to do it for this meeting. So what we're looking at on this, what I'm sharing now are a couple exterior photos. These two are on the south elevation. So this is closest to the Gilbane trailer. To the left of here would be area A. Area A is basically all bricked at this time, and we're starting the windows and metal panels. We're actually working through a couple items to make sure the installation is just right with the metal panels. So I didn't take any photos of that. There's nothing wrong with the color or anything like that, but we're kind of like in process in a bunch of areas. So there's not really any of the metal panel sections that are complete. So mainly you'd be seeing the brick and then temp protection in the windows and just the metal panel installation and process. But I figured this was kind of nice to see this south entrance, and you can see the retaining wall currently. So you're starting to get a little feel for how that south entrance is shaping up. This photo right to the right is actually then pivoting a little bit and then looking at the south area B. And this kind of just gives you an idea where we are progress brick wise. In the next 2 weeks, so right around Christmas, we'll have the brick to the end of this elevation and be wrapping up brick before New Year's and right around Christmas on the south. This area, interestingly enough, to the left of this brick is actually all temporary protection. So we framed and installed the sheathing above that's necessary for the curtain wall, but this is actually a glass elevation. What we did just temporarily is fill that in with some framing and dense glass, and that's primarily to heat the inside of the building so we can continue with the progress inside, and you'll see a little bit of that on the next slide. So we didn't mess anything up there. We just did that for temporary measures to trap a bunch of heat in the building. Jumping over to these two slides. So this is actually the north elevation. And what you see here is you kind of see shipping and receiving shaping up. This is the wall installation that's in process, and you can sort of see up that A brick is complete. It actually continues down through shipping and receiving and continues to the east side of A, which is better shown in this photo right here. So you can see basically we're done, and this is actually the corner of the north elevation. So we actually wrapped and are starting on the east elevation on the back side of the building. So the goal with all the brick at the end of the day is to be done right around New Year's. We'll probably be washing this east elevation, the back side of the building, after in January, that first week of January. But we're on schedule to finish up the brick, and then that allows us to continue behind with the windows and the metal panels. All these areas above the temporary protection is basically where you see these blue areas through here. That's where there's metal panels. So that's why those are left out. We didn't skip them with the brick or anything like that. They just get infilled with a different substrate. And then just quickly on the inside. So these are two different angles of the gym, but figured it'd be kind of neat for you to see the CMU going up in the gym. We're almost substantially complete. Probably end the next week, we'll be done with the gym masonry, which will allow us to kind of pull out all the scaffolding that's in there, the hydromobile scaffolding, and then we'll be substantially complete in the gym, which is a big milestone for us. And then we'll just basically have the elevator shaft to finish for CMU on the inside of the building. This gives you an idea of what's going on in Area A, sheetrocking, taping, and you can see we're pretty well along the way with our MEP rough. We have to insulate some stuff still, so that's why this duct is not insulated, but you kind of get a feel for what's going on. And we have sprinkler in, we have ductwork in, hydronic piping, plumbing, basically everything we need up there. And actually mobilized the ceiling contractor this week, so he's starting to go a little bit, starting to get his angles and his hangers and kind of items like that going, which is a nice step whenever we can start the ceiling contractor. And then Graham's probably going to be most excited for this. This right here is the switch gear arriving. So there's more in the truck, but this was the gear last week getting delivered. It's actually in place in the electrical room. We kind of had to pull out to let the mason finish the masonry wall that encloses the room. But this was a big milestone for the project last week, having this arrive. We're missing one breaker, but like we discussed, I think previously I mentioned that there's a breaker that's showing up later this month, but it's for a downstream panel as it is. So it wouldn't affect the actual startup of the power. Just while we're talking about equipment, this room right here, the mezzanine space where the DOAS goes, 6 out of the 7 sections of that DOAS actually arrived at the rigger yesterday. We have one more piece that's coming, and that's supposed to be expected in early January, right around really the first full week of January. So we're actually mobilizing the rigger starting January 6th to start putting in that DOAS along with some other equipment in the mechanical room. So that's also a very important day for us and kind of exciting news to share and have that actually locked in and with the target date for it. Outside the progress, the only other 2 probably quick things to mention is we have another high school tour coming through this week and next week. This week is for the design team. Next week on Tuesday, we're going to have another group of students come through for a construction tour with the construction team. So that's kind of always interesting and kind of noteworthy about the community involvement. And then finally, the last other kind of administrative thing we're working on is just state change order 3. So we had 2 submitted previously, and we're in the process of getting 3 pulled together for submission over to Colliers and Tecton this month. And that's my update for today.
Yay.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Do you know how many RFIs the architect process, just to keep me?
Look, we're up in the 270s. I think we have like 8 open, so they're doing a great job. Keep still. The burn rate slowed down on submittals and RFIs definitely since November, which is good. That helps out, but they're still going. And I think we had like 550 submittals closed through this week. So we're on the tail end there, hopefully.
Yeah, can't be much left, I would think, at this point. Great. Any questions for Robert from anybody?
I'll jump in, Rob, just because I know we often get, rightfully so, sort of in the weeds on, this section and this panel and this, that, the other. The question I always ask at the OAC in the trailer is overall schedule obstacles. Right now, we're not tracking anything that's a major obstacle that would impede progress. The stuff that's been shipped either later than expected, whatever, that's been mitigated. There's always risk out in the waters, but right now we're not seeing anything come down the pipe and we're just marching along, right?
Yep, correct. And we have our flow still established. Our flow through the building from that main A to main B to lower B is well established and no disruptions there. Just we get our little hiccups here and there with, like I said, slowing down the metal panel guy a little bit, contractor, just to make sure we're doing that to prevent any future concerns there. But that obviously doesn't affect the overall schedule. We're able to mobilize and keep the other trades going, the sequencing moving properly. So, yep.
Great, thanks, Robert. I guess we can move on to Adam's OPM report. If you're
Yeah.
ready.
Yes. So in general, just kind of piggybacking off of what Justin might say for some of the items that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks. A lot of emphasis has been on both myself and with Tecton on these furniture, playground, IT packages, getting the bid documents pulled together, ultimately go to the state. But the big item, as Graham alluded to at the beginning of the meeting, is tonight's the first vote from Board of Education. So after this meeting, I will be heading over to Town Hall to attend that meeting, and presuming approvals there of the phase 3 and phase 4 packages, we would then have the same vote at this committee on the 16th in advance of our meeting with the state on the 19th. So all's proceeding well with those items, but there's a lot of those unsung documents and things that need to get ironed out. So that's a lot of what Justin's been working on and his team for these packages. In addition to, like I said, just the good work that Rob mentioned on being responsive with RFIs and really getting into the weeds on some of the change orders and what are we doing and what's the best way to keep forward to maintain that positive schedule momentum that we've been having so far and we're looking to keep. So that's been sort of in a nutshell what I've been working on with Tecton over the past couple of weeks. I will say that as you start to see some of the reports in the packet from Tecton and the subs and their subcontractors, Kohler Ronan and Benish, as more and more of the building gets put into place, obviously there's more and more to look at and more small things or items to note, to track for remediation. So maybe there's caulking that's not right, or maybe this detail isn't quite right. Like I said, as the building starts to get more complete, those numbers by definition just happen to grow. So once we get towards the end of the project, if you're looking at the reports and you see the list get longer, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's suddenly a drop in quality with the trades or anything like that. It's just there's more to look at. So that's sort of a function of getting towards the meat of the building getting put into place. The pay applications go up in value, and there's more things to report on. So again, I think there's been good collaboration amongst the design team and Gilbane and the trades on looking at items, talking about them, looking at them at the field, and proactively getting the items resolved. But again, just a thing I like to mention as we get into the heart of putting up a new building. Other items that have happened since we last met, we've had a number of sort of pre-construction mini meetings on scopes. So, before we go putting in the windows all in, looking at a sample windowsill configuration and some of the flashing before they go putting them all around the building. Those types of in-field meetings have been occurring, as well as just coordinated with some of the other vendors. So, Rob mentioned talking about not the generators, the switch gear and getting power on. There's the preamble to that, which is coordinating with Eversource about getting the power brought to the building. So there's a few other documentation items, last minute items. We're working with town legal and Eversource on ironing those out. So that way we're all ready and set to go for what the primary power wants to get pulled. So again, lots of it just in the trenches going through each of the components. But like I said, for outside of the construction site, a lot of it has been on this furniture package and getting some of these approvals up. That's all I have for right now. Any questions?
Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, review of potential award and procurement items.
Yes. So I'll just share my screen here. So thank you again for everyone's flexibility on shifting this meeting to tonight from last week. As a result, we were able to get a fair number of these change orders cleaned up to put before you tonight. A lot of these were items that have been very hot off the presses to try to get resolved. So that's why we wanted to keep this special meeting so we could get them put in place, get them under contract if they are approved, and then proceed accordingly. Again, I'll run through all of them, and then if there's any questions or votes, we can just let me know and stop me. First item is ATP 39. This is for just over $7,600. This is an item for some additional curtain wall steel that basically it was a detail coordination issue between architecturals and structural, where some additional steel needed to be installed to meet the parapet detail at curtain wall 5. So this is per usual gone through Tecton and their structural engineer review, negotiating what the actual scope needs to be, and coming to a resolution about how to actually format the detail of the top of the parapet to align with the rest of the facade. Next item is ATP 49 for just over 13,900. This one is linked to a later ATP number 60 for some audio-visual changes. So I'll talk about this one and then I'll jump to 60 so we can look at it all at once. But it's effectively a number of rooms throughout the building were not originally scoped with either visual displays or smart boards based on the original anticipated use of the room. But after talking with the principal and other administrative staff, the way those rooms were going to be used wanted to have a smart board because they were more of a teaching environment than originally anticipated. So for the audiovisual change, that at a number of rooms that totals out to this 13.9, and then for ATP 60, that's the power and data component of it. So you have a smart board, you have power, you have data, and you have the actual HDMI backup to it.
I have a question.
So that, oh yeah, go for it, Sharon.
On the last one that you had up there, that
Yeah.
$13,000 one, doesn't it say on there that it's client provided wall mounted stuff? So what does that pay
Yes.
for if the boards are actually provided by the town?
Good question. Yep. So the boards and the mounts are in the FF&E package, AVIT package that I'm going to Board of Education tonight and we'll talk about next week. This is for all the actual backbone infrastructure. So the in-wall cable runs, the back box behind the mount that everything gets plugged into, and so you got your HDMI cable comes out to the TV to the Promethean board, but it has to go through the walls over to the input display near the desk. So this is what this ATP and ATP 60 covers, that infrastructure work, and then the town is supplying and it's already priced in the
Okay,
purchase
so
of these smart boards.
4,800 is for the data and the additional data and power lines? I'm
Correct.
confused why they're separated and what, because it sounds like it's the same thing.
Right. They were originally tracked as one. They got broken out based on trying to expedite one review versus another, and it just so happened that we couldn't make it go faster. Because the electrician, and the data guy, they might have been going first versus the AV subcontractor. So that's why they were split. In a perfect world, they would have originally
All
been
been lumped
combined
together as
Yep.
one. So it's actually like $17,000 to add
Yes,
the
correct.
structure for
Yep.
these extra.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's why I'm talking about them now, so it doesn't, you
Yeah.
don't hear about it later and go, didn't we just talk about
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
It's still kind of confusing to me, but okay. I mean,
Yep.
if it's right, it's right, I guess.
Any other questions on the 49 and 60 about the power and data? Okay. Next item is ATP 50 for $1,700. This is for an additional louver that's required at one of the mechanical rooms. That was intended as part of the mechanical design, but it just didn't make it onto the elevations. So this is the cost for the louver to be installed for the subcontractor. Questions there? Next item is ATP 51 for $2,695. This one is actually linked to ATP 56. They're both one is for the removal and one is for the installation. Again, a timing thing, trying to expedite one if we could. For the Eversource transformer relocation, where if you recall, we approved a change order a while back where Eversource required basically a different location for the transformer and needed to shift up to the north. As part of that shift, the location of the generator pad conflicted with 3 trees. And so basically wipe out the root structure. So the one change order is for this 2695 is to plant new trees, and the other change order is for the 7170 to remove those trees. So all in told about 10 grand for replacing trees for the buffer in that area due to the change for the generator. Questions on that? ATP 50, oh, we talked about 56. ATP 60 is for, oh, we talked about that one too. Sorry about that. I've missed my place here on ATP 61. Bear with me, I apologize. There we go. ATP 61 for just over $18,000. This was a condition that occurred at the recently completed water line over the bridge. Effectively, the design process for the water line starts with the provider, CT Water. So they come up with the overall scheme of what's required. That gets finalized by the civil contractor, in this case, Benesch, and then gets put in place and then tested. Once it was in place and tested with the pressure that was required, some leaks were encountered. So a bit of a handoff issue between the original design with CT Water and the project designer with Benesch. As a result, there was additional restraints and some pipe lengths needed to be adjusted to and some thrust blocks installed in order to get the pipes to not leak based on the configuration. So this was something that was reviewed. There's some tickets submitted and negotiated with the civil contractor to make sure there wasn't any double counting of work. So obviously they owned some things like seating and backfilling and things of that nature. But there was a number of work that was outside their contract that were required to be installed in order to get the water main to not leak, basically. So that's all been resolved, and the tickets are submitted, and the end result was again just over $18,000 here. Any questions on this one? Nope. And then finally, ATP 62. This is for just over 55,000, and this is actually for the alternate. If you remember way back when, a GMP alternate number 4 for the Mungertown Road sidewalk. So we've gone through a number of iterations here on the potential scope. And if you recall, there was the original reason that I understood from the SBC for not accepting the alternate at the time of GNP for this bituminous sidewalk out front here was under the notion that there might be some additional town grant projects or sidewalk projects that would occur that might want to install that sidewalk differently, or that there might want to be a different configuration. Ultimately, basically, since GMP was established, there's been various discussions about how to address the sidewalk, and ultimately there is no town project scheduled to install sidewalks, and there aren't any grant funds targeted for this. And so to remain in alignment with what the Planning and Zoning Commission approved, the notion was to just provide the ATP to accept the alternate now at this date. Gilbane did coordinate with the subcontractor who has held their price from the original GMP quote. So it's exactly the same as it was. But we have the opportunity to accept the work now. And the notion here, and I think maybe Graham or Peter, if you're on the line to kind of speak to this, is the project always intended to have some sidewalk out front. So now that we're at a point where we're past some of the options, let's just install the sidewalk that was originally planned and move on. So that way that's sort of captured within the project scope. Is that a fair assessment, Graham?
Yeah, correct. I mean, the neighbor, this is one of the few requests the neighbors were adamant about, and that was a condition that was planning and zoning requested we added it, and we're adding it. We've talked innumerable times about different scenarios, concrete, part of a bigger master plan. But at this point, I don't think we have any choice but to proceed with putting it in on the plans, because otherwise it potentially could hold up our CO and not moving into the building. So we have to do, move forward with this, and if at some point the town brings the rest of the sidewalk around, and I know there was I think a meeting this week or next week, but I just don't think there's any grant funds in place, so we can't wait. We can't not do it without planning and zoning, being at risk of our planning and zoning and super approved site plan. So, and it's a great job by Gilbane getting the contractor to hold the price from over a year ago. So I was sure we are going to hit with an escalation. So any questions, comments? This was a safety issue. If you recall, kids walk up and down the, cross-country team, high school teams, use this, walk on there, and then it's obviously a busy road. It's a place where a kid can jump off. If they're running, if they're jogging on the street, or people are walking in the street, they can get off and be safe on this side.
Graham, how do we end up dealing with the stone wall in the street?
We're going to
As of
finesse
right-
it as best we can. We had some preliminary discussions about planning and zoning, about getting that waived, and they did not seem inclined to modify that, and the money, there's other things we have to spend the money on, on the remainder of the project, which we'll talk about, probably over the next month or so, including potentially demolishing Ryerson. So, you can't tie up $250,000 on doing something that's, I'd hope that the future grant project could pick it up and do it, but it looks like it's going to be on our nickel. So.
There is just with regard to what's in scope, so we're clear on expectations. The alternate doesn't provide for rebuilding a stone wall or anything to that effect. It's basically, and for anyone that's been out there recently, most of the wall isn't really a wall. It's just a collection, a pile of bigger rocks. So the scope as captured in the alternate wouldn't rebuild a nice fieldstone wall. It would basically move it to its existing location if it were in the way. But effectively, the scope you're in is just for the sidewalk. And then if there's additional work that we want to entertain or need to entertain based on the tree conditions or what have you, we'd address that separately after the fact. But right now, this is just to capture installing a sidewalk.
Yeah, and even the stone wall, it's a matter of opinion what a stone wall is, and it's not a stone wall. With planning and zoning, we were starting to go down that path, and I don't think it was just gonna go around in circles for a while.
So that reaches the end of the list of the 8 ATPs. Any other questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm screen sharing right now, and I can zoom in if you'd like the draft motions.
I think we're ready. Would anyone like to take a crack at this rather lengthy list? Sharon, you've got your vocal cords tuned up, hopefully.
I have some noise going with a printer in my office. It might be better for someone else to do it.
Okay, what are you up to?
Sure. Motion to approve ATP 39 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $7,680 for additional steel installation at Curtain Wall 5 per RFIs 164 and 174.
Do we have a second? Sharon, second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Yep.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I'm new at this.
Yeah. You're a natural, Woody. You're a natural.
Motion to approve ATP 49 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $13,908 for additional AV infrastructure for forthcoming smart boards and displays and the final office furniture hardwired connections per Bulletin 21.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 50 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $1,740 for an additional air intake louver per RFI 72.
All in favor? Or second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 51 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $2,695 for additional trees to replace those to be removed per RFI 230 due to discovered root conflicts with the revised Eversource transformer location.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 56 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $7,170 for tree removal due to discovered root conflicts with the revised Eversource transformer location.
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve ATP 60 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $4,886 for additional power and data for forthcoming smart boards and displays and the final office furniture hardwired connections per Bulletin 21.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 61 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $18,022 for additional fittings and restraints resulting from changes to CT Water's original design per RFIs 186 and 198.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 62 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $55,694 for the Mungertown Road sidewalk originally contemplated as GMP alternative number 04.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Thank you. And Adam, if you can go on to agenda item 6, I believe.
Yes. So I'm showing on the screen here draft agenda for the regular meeting schedules in 2025. As we've done in previous years, some dates have been shifted around to avoid conflicts with some of the major holidays. Otherwise, it generally keeps the cadence of the first and third Monday of the month at our 5:30 time.
Beautiful. Anyone, we have a motion? What do you want to, if you can,
Sure. Motion to approve the new meeting schedule for 2025.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Excellent. Thank you, Woody, for your yeoman duty.
My pleasure.
Right.
It's vodka, so it's calming my nerves.
Exactly. That's what I assume. Let's see. So, moving on to public, item number 7, public comment. Raquel, do we have any public?
Katie Stein, but she's a Board of Finance, liaison.
Got it. Moving on to number 8, remarks. Anyone have any comments, remarks? So we have a short break here, right? So the meeting is next Monday, right? Make sure your calendars are current.
It'll be an important one. That'll be, like I said, the vote for this group and those packets. So
Right.
be good to keep going.
Beautiful. Okay, anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll do that.
A
Well,
second,
then I'll second.
and make it easy for the minutes. Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Take care.